Coach Tony Willaert. Tony's the head coach at Augustana College in Rock Island, Illinois. Prior to that, Tony coached at St. John's University in Minnesota, where he also wrestled and was a senior captain and national qualifier as well. While in Minnesota, he also ran the Central Minnesota Wrestling Club, which is part of the Minnesota Storm program. Anyone who knows anything about freestyle and Greco knows about the Minnesota Storm. Really successful. A lot of big names train out of there. And I know it looks like you trained a couple high school state champs and a handful of Fargo All-Americans while you were there as well. So that's pretty awesome.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, great time up in Minnesota, but now I'm down here in Illinois. So.
Yep. And we're happy to have you down in our area for sure. I guess let's start at the beginning if we could. Can you tell us about your wrestling background and how you were introduced to the sport?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've pretty much wrestled my whole life. My dad was my youth coach, and it was more just something to do. Like my dad was coaching other kids. I went to practice with them. I just went for dodgeball and the pizza party at the end of the year pretty much. But, I really learned to love the sport. And then when I was in high school, probably about my sophomore, junior year, I really started kind of taking it seriously. And seriously, right? Like I did other sports too. It's not like I was just training wrestling year round, but that's when I really kind of started seeing success and I wanted to be successful, right? Before that, I was just kind of like something that my family did, something that I did. And that's when I started kind of taking off. So.
Hey, Coach, can you tell us a little bit about this past season, your team, how well they did, and then what are you looking forward to going into next season as well?
Yeah, we, our year we're still pretty young. We had some ups and downs, but we wrestled a really tough schedule. Our dual record wasn't great, but we competed with a lot of pretty good teams. We got a big home win against Cornell College. And then we took third in our conference at the individual tournament. I think we were projected for fifth. But at the conference tournament was kind of all week before, 2 weeks before, I had told the guys that we could take third in the conference, and we have North Central and Milliken in our conference who are both nationally ranked teams. And we were only, I want to say like 15, 20 points behind them. So we had a hell of a tournament, but, we had the most pins in the least amount of time. We had the most tech falls in the least amount of time. And then the seeding to placing differential, all these things on track that they do, like you just type something in, it pulls it up. But we had the highest seeding to placing differential. So it was a lot of fun. And I think towards, Christmas time on, we saw kind of a different team, I think the guys are really buying into what we're doing. But I'm excited for next year. We got a bunch of pretty good recruits coming in. Obviously we want numbers at Augustana, but the quality of kids that we've been recruiting it's really starting to get there now. So a lot of good kids coming in, and it's a bright future for us.
That's awesome. That's a good deal. When do you first start recruiting a wrestler, and what are the first things you sort of look for in a recruit?
Yeah, like I said, I didn't take wrestling too seriously. My junior year of high school, I placed in Minnesota. They have sections, and top two qualify for state. My sophomore and junior year, I took fifth in sections, right? So, good enough to place at sections, but by a long ways away from qualifying for state, placing at state. So I took fifth at sections my junior year, and then my senior year I won state. So I know a lot of coaches look at junior year state placing, qualifying as freshmen, sophomores, but I was a late bloomer. My brother was a late bloomer. I just want kids who love the sport of wrestling and have a good work ethic. We can teach kids how to wrestle, how to strategize in matches and stuff, but you can't really teach kids to love the sport, and some kids get so burnt out. They have such success at the youth and high school level, and then they don't pan out in college, so if they have a love for the sport and a passion for the sport, that's what we're looking for, and obviously if they're really good too, that's a huge thing. But I talk to kids I mean, fall of their senior year is kind of when things really ramp up. But I'll talk to kids when they're, juniors. It all just kind of depends on where they're at, what my availability is to them. Like I started coaching on the Team Illinois freestyle staff last year. And so I got my face out there. I got exposure to all those, all those kids, the freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. So it kind of depends on the kids, but obviously around here with young guns, I'll go in with Eric every now and then. I'm going out to other local clubs, but you get exposure to those kids. So really anytime I'm at a wrestling event, I try to, put on my recruiting coaching hat, just to get kids familiar with us. So.
That's great. Coach, we have a very unique situation with the quarantine going on, a lot of gyms, workout rooms being closed. What do you advise our youth wrestlers to be doing now? And part two of the question, what are you doing with your college wrestlers?
Yeah, I mean, I have a few kids that have like pretty decent workout facilities at their house, or like at least access to something. So for those kids, some things don't really change. Like we have our off-season program going. But I mean, I've been watching a lot of wrestling lately, some of our guys, some of my old teammates, some world level, Olympic level type stuff, D1 level, and just like during an injury, like if you're injured, progress doesn't stop, so you can watch film, you can pick up new techniques, you can watch your own film and kind of critique where you were at. But, I tell the guys, like, if you can manage your diet right now, obviously since our workout situations are a little different. Like if you can manage your diet and keep putting in good things and going on a run and push-ups, pull-ups, and then when you do get a chance to get back in the weight room, then you're not so far behind. You can almost even make gains. But yeah, I obviously, like, we don't want them 100% on wrestling because obviously they have to focus on school right now too with online learning. Because school, I mean, it's another month or so, right? So they got to focus on those things too. And then obviously they're at home with their folks, so they got responsibilities at home too. But yeah, I mean, the main thing is just progress doesn't stop. You gotta find some way to do it. But I send little workouts to them every now and then, just body weight stuff. There's this thing called Ludus that one of my former alumni, All-Americans, started getting into. It's kind of like yoga, but it's a little different. But so a lot of the guys are doing that too.
I love that mentality too. You're the first one that has actually brought that up. Is treat this as if it's an injury. You have to work through an injury. We're kind of in a time where you can't get a lot of good wrestling partners or whatever, live wrestling. So a good time to review that video.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Coach, some really exciting news came out recently. Augustana, you guys are going to be adding a women's wrestling team. It's in the 2021-2022 school year. Super cool, massive growth. We're super excited for that. What are sort of short-term and then maybe longer-term goals for that program?
Yeah, we are really excited about it. It's been something, I mean, I know when Eric was coaching at Augie, they were talking about adding it then, the growth has been amazing at the youth and high school levels. Even just when I was coaching on team Minnesota for up in Fargo, and the tournament has grown like crazy for the girls. So I think it's something where we're still kind of on the front end of it, but we're not falling so far behind, so we can start fielding a pretty good team. Like we're ahead of where I mean, obviously there's like I think there's 110 or so D1 D3 men's teams, and I think they're at 40 or so nationally for women's, I believe. But we're on the front end where we can call up top recruits in the country. Where if I were to call up like a Mark Hall type of guy, like we probably won't get him, but on the women's side, there's a very, very realistic chance that we can lock down some of those girls who eventually are going to be competing for Olympic and world medals, you know? So it's a really exciting time. Obviously in the Quad Cities, we have a good number of girls wrestlers who are very successful. So we've kind of started up recruiting a bit. You know, and like you said, we're not competing until 21, 22, but this next year we're trying to lock down as many girls as we can.
Awesome.
So starting a program brand new, I mean, right out of the blocks like this, and it's not been done, as you said, what, 40 something colleges right now attempted to do it so far. I mean, how do you set, and what do you set as your short-term and long-term goals, you know, to eventually establish this program?
Yeah, we can, I mean, they're Augsburg and North Central both added it this last year, and they placed, I don't remember what Augsburg placed, but North Central placed 6th in the country, you know, so we have a very good chance of, if we do the recruiting right and obviously develop the girls into wrestlers, we can be nationally competitive right away, you know, and obviously that's kind of the goal, is to be nationally competitive every year and grow our numbers and help grow the high school and youth level here in the Quad Cities and in Illinois and Iowa. But yeah, I mean, we want to be really successful. We want to kind of have this as a, you know, like a flagship program at Augustana, you know, somebody that's kind of like our basketball team and what our football team used to be and what our wrestling program has been in the past, you know, teams that are competitive every year.
That's awesome. How do you see building the women's program affecting or interacting with the men's team? How will that kind of work together?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I haven't done this yet. It's gonna be a learning curve. I'm gonna have to be really efficient with my time management, but I think they'll feed off of each other. Honestly, like we're starting to see the progress we want to see with the men's team, and I think I mean even though it's freestyle versus folk style, like it's wrestling, you know. So we can build a program. I think the women's recruits will see what we're doing with the men. You know, and even this first year when we're not competing, like we can have the women's recruits come and watch our men's practice, you know, and see how we coach and see how we talk to our guys and kind of see what we're all about, you know. So I think they'll feed off of each other, and then I mean I think it'll help like I said, I think it'll help the high school level here in the Quad Cities too, because you know, the girls in high school right now, they don't have a program to go watch a home duel at, you know. So if we can build it up and market the program really well, I think it's gonna grow like crazy.
So, you know, bringing on this female team, college team, what are the current plans in terms of like accommodations? You know, Rob and I, we've been fortunate. We've seen your facilities. You got great facilities there. But in terms of accommodations to adding the female team, are they going to have to expand the rooms, locker rooms, and then coaching wise? I mean, that's a lot more you're taking on your plate as well.
Yeah.
Where do you see that going?
We so my athletic director and I, Mike Spolsky, we went out and talked to North Central just because they're in our conference and they just added, and they literally just went through all of this. So we went out and talked to Joe Norton and their athletic director, and just kind of asked them some advice and stuff like that. But we're going to hire a full-time assistant coach, not this year to help recruit, but when we start competing. So we'll have another full-time assistant who they'll help with the men's and the women's programs, help with recruiting, help with scheduling, help with travel, stuff like that. But then as far as the wrestling room goes, we actually just got approved for a new pool, you know, and nothing's been set in place yet. But we've had talks of turning the current pool into our wrestling facility. So I had to write up a proposal for that. And I believe there's a couple other proposals, but at least in my mind, that makes the most sense. Like there's 2 locker room spaces right there. My office actually looks right out onto the pool deck. And I've done a lot of research on it. When I was up in Minnesota, we went to a few schools that converted their pools into wrestling rooms, and it works out great. We'd be able to do all of our home matches there because there's bleachers up above. So it would be a really cool, unique area to have a wrestling facility. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we can pull that off. But
that'd be a nice facility. Definitely.
Yeah, it would be awesome. I'm excited.
You mentioned that the recruiting process has already kind of started for the women's program. Is recruiting for women's wrestling different from recruiting for men's wrestling, or is it kind of the same? They're all wrestlers. What have you seen there so far?
Yeah, it's so far it's been good. I mean, like they seem so excited about it, you know. And not that the men aren't, but it's been fun so far. We've already had girls apply. They're just so energetic about it, and I think just because women's wrestling is comparatively relatively new. I think they're just ready to kind of help grow the sport too. So they're all, I mean, super polite, like, "Oh, coach, thank you so much for contacting me." And yeah, I'll get on that right away. And like I said, we've had girls apply already, and we've only had the sport for, last Thursday we announced. So we've already had girls apply from all over the country too. Like I've talked to girls in California, Washington, Oregon, Arizona, Texas, Illinois, Iowa. Like, I feel like they're just a little more energetic, and obviously some of the guys are too, but some of them I have to hound down and call them, FaceTime them, Snapchat them. Like it's crazy. But
so, Coach, and I'm learning so much just from talking to you through this interview and stuff. But will there be a women's national tournament, and will the tournament be broken up in divisions? I've heard rumors that there may be one consolidated tournament someday in the future.
Right now, I believe it's called the WCWA. They host a national tournament. So they hosted at Adrian College up in Michigan. But I think McKendree won it. I guess I'm not positive. I haven't really looked at too much of the results yet, but I don't know if like Grandview's in on that. They're NAIA. So I guess I'd have to do a little more research on that. But once it's right now it's an NCAA emerging sports status. Once it's sponsored sport by the NCAA, then they'll have their own NCAA tournament, and I believe they'll separate the NCAA versus the NAIA. So yeah, I mean, I think there were 37, 38 teams at the tournament, and that was right around the same time as I think it was a little before the national tournament for the men. So.
And they already have, I've seen a few times, a dual tournament. Is that right?
Yeah.
Around the same time they do some of the other.
Yep. Yeah. They've been doing national duels for probably a handful of years at least, if not longer. But yeah. I remember seeing when we were at national duels when I was at St. John's and when I was with Augie now, they have a women's tournament going right alongside of it. So
yeah, one of my favorite events. I think my oldest has moved on from the youth scene, but when he was growing up, they would always have the New Way National Duels in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and it was alongside the other national duels. So we would always see I think it was everyone but D1, if I remember right. I mean, it had the NAIA, the JUCOs, the females were there. It was an awesome event. I think New Way Duels moved to Kentucky recently, and I'm not sure if
Louisville.
Yeah. Do you know by chance, did they move all those other duels down there was that all moved together?
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, when I was at St. John's, St. Cloud State was really close to us. So it's really cool because when we went with Augie, I got to go see Steve Costanzo, the coach there, and the junior college coaches. I know a bunch of them up in Minnesota. So when we were there, it's almost like a reunion, But I actually, when I was in school, they used to do it at UNI with D1 teams there too. So that was crazy. So we'd see Oklahoma State doing their team meetings after the duels, and we'd be walking right by it and hearing John Smith talking to this team and wrestling right next to the Gophers and Penn State. And, that's a good event. It's fun. It's cool having all of them together. So yeah, I mean, at Louisville, they do it at I forget what the name of the venue is, but it's a big convention center. And yeah, everybody's together, the women, the junior college, NAIA, D2 and D3.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Very cool event.
Mm-hmm.
So now we've got some OT questions, sort of a sudden death, round, if you will. So, favorite wrestling movie?
I mean, the number one that jumps out at me is Vision Quest. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I mean, I watched that a handful of times when I was in high school, just because my older brother. So.
Now, I'm interested in the answer on the next one, since you're a Minnesotan. Is it state wrestling or is it states wrestling?
State tournament. But it's crazy because everybody says nationals. Nobody questions nationals. Like, it's only one nation, but one state. I mean, we have guys from New Jersey though, and every New Jersey guy, it's states. I think it's a geographical thing. So
yeah. Hey, what's your favorite wrestling match of all time?
I actually watched a couple of your guys' podcasts here, and somebody said McElravy versus Abbas. I really like that one. I really like Doug Schwab when he beat Guerrero at Carver Hawkeye. That one's a fun one. Yeah, those two probably jump out at me the most. Otherwise, some of my teammates from college. One of my teammates, his name's Drew Larson. He's an Army Ranger now, but to stay alive at regionals to qualify for nationals, he was on bottom. He was losing by, I think, 4. He got an escape right into an underhook to a takedown to back points and won the match. So that one was a lot of fun. We had a bunch of teammates on the side. That one personally probably is my favorite, but just watching in the D1 scene, those other two I mentioned.
Sure, those are all good ones. This has become one of my favorite questions to ask, because afterwards I always jump on YouTube and because some of them I haven't seen before, right? So pretty cool. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube, obviously. So I'll be looking at that Schwab Guerrero. I think I've probably seen it, but it's been years. So
yeah. So I don't know how they would mark it now, or officiate it now, but Schwab, I mean, he fell behind. He gassed out Guerrero, and then I believe it was in the third. He was trying to cut him, right? And then Guerrero would just chill on his knees, and Schwab would snap him down again and let him up and snap him down again. And I don't think Guerrero left his knees that whole third period. So, but it's a good one. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, Coach. Favorite food, and is there any place during this quarantine we should plug to take takeout from?
Yeah, my favorite food is tacos or Mexican. Like, I love Chipotle, burritos, pretty much anything Mexican. I don't know. One of my assistant coach, John Petroff, he recommended La Finca to me a while ago. It's in just right across the bridge from Augie on Centennial Bridge there. You take a left, and it's right on. There's like a marketplace connected to it, so it's authentic Mexican. I'm not sure if they're doing takeout, but I know Craig Wagner, one of our alumni, he has a few restaurants that are doing takeout. So if you've ever been to Tanglewood, that's a great place. They got good wings and good burgers and stuff like that. And then I believe the other one that he owns is City Limits. And I think that's in Rock Island. I actually haven't been to that one, but yeah, got to plug our Augustana grads. So
Yep. Let's support them local businesses as well. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Greatest U.S. Olympic wrestler of all time?
My favorite or greatest? Who I think is the greatest?
Yeah. Yep.
Probably Burroughs in my eyes right now. Obviously he hasn't won his second Olympics yet. But like, there's only one tournament he hasn't medaled in, I think, as a senior level athlete. And I mean, he had that run of Olympic and world titles. So I'd say Burroughs. But I'm excited about, I mean, obviously like Snyder, he's right around there, and younger. So hopefully he can, have a good run. But
He'll have a good tournament to make it to it too. He has to go through Cox this year. Right?
Yep. Yeah. Who do you got in that?
boy, some reason Cox always pulls it out. So
I know.
I thought with Taylor, what was it last time 4 years ago? I thought Taylor had him, when he blew out his knee against the ropes,
Yep.
and then somehow he pulls it out. So I'm gonna go with Cox.
Yeah, I mean, I like Snyder more, but I think it's Jaden too. It's that kid. That guy's crazy. I can't believe like he one of his matches at Worlds last year, he was like in a quad pod, but the guy had his legs laced.
Yep.
And he didn't give up any points. Not only not a turn, but not even a takedown. Like that guy's strong, man.
Yeah, he's like the Matrix. Like he's some of the stuff.
Yeah,
incredible. Like
it's amazing.
Yeah.
And the way he moves too, it's like, I mean, I wouldn't even call it like wrestling, but then all of a sudden he'll like be behind you, So,
yeah, almost hypnotizes you, and then
I know,
lethargic, and then just explodes.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a big match.
That's actually crazy because I wrestled with some Mongolians in college, and like I don't know if I would say Jaden wrestles like internationally, like that style, but like you said, he kind of like he'll just kind of lull you and then all of a sudden go, and that's exactly how the Mongolians wrestled that I wrestled with. So,
good fact.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How about your favorite wrestling style?
I love freestyle, so that's another reason I'm really excited about the women's team. But I mean, being in Minnesota, I mean, I grew up with Greco, so I love Greco. I love top wrestling in folk style. So pretty much, I mean, I could be having a horrible day in the office, and then I step on a wrestling mat, and it's all better, So I guess it doesn't really matter what style it is, as long as I'm on a wrestling mat, I'm good. But
we've seen a lot of transition in the college wrestling from traditional folk style starting to transition, from the danger zone, to giving up the 4 points back, or even 3 points with a prior to takedown. Are you in favor of that? Do you like the direction that's going as far as college wrestling goes? And definitely, you get 4 against you, you're in a hole to dig out.
Yeah, I think I like it just because watching, guys like Seth Gross, Jason Nall, all those guys, like I think it adds more creativity to wrestling. And that's always been my wrestling style. Like, just let it fly, and see what happens. So, I mean, sometimes it bites you, but yeah, it's I think it'll take a little time to like kind of work out the tweaks, like the like the out of bounds rule in college right now. I think it's way better than it used to be. Like when with the quarantine and stuff, the D1 national tournaments from like 2000, 2003, 2008, 2013, whatever, those were all on, and just watching the action on the edge. Those old tournaments is. Did I shut you guys off?
No, your voice did change though, but we can still hear you.
I might have shut something off.
We can still hear you fine.
But just watching the edge rules, it's I think it obviously expands the space, right? Like now you just have to have a toe in, whereas I think before I was watching Jurgen's match against Sanderson, he like anytime either person had a supporting point out or something, it was blown dead. So like I think there's a lot more action now, but I think there's things to kind of fix with all of it. So
yeah, I'll tell you, I'm a big fan. So freestyle might be my favorite to watch, but I'm still a big fan of the top game and folk style as well. I would like to see some kind of a hybrid where maybe like the push out point in freestyle I think is awesome, and then it would require getting rid of riding time, which I know some people love that riding time point. But at some point when guys are just laying down on the mat, I mean, that does get kind of boring. So bringing them back up like freestyle does, I think may at least bring a little more excitement to the folk style world. But.
Yeah, I think everybody has some kind of idea to like fix. Like people are talking about like you only get the riding time point if you turn them. And like I think the more you mess with the rules, like I mean, first of all, it adds a new dimension for the officials too, you know, so like they have to adjust, you know, and a lot of the officials ref high school and college. So like then they're going from, you know, one day doing high school rules to the next day doing college, or sometimes in the same day. Like it's tough on them too then. So I think the more basic you can get, the better. But I mean, I love folk style. So like I don't want them to do freestyle in college, I don't think yet, but I don't know. Sure. I don't make those decisions. So.
Yeah. Hey, a little different quick topic. What's your favorite vacation destination?
I mean, when I was a kid, all of my vacations, my dad's a big Minnesota sports fan, and like all of our vacations were centered around where the Twins were playing. So like I've been to New York, I've been to Boston, I've been to San Francisco. So those are my main vacations. I've been up to Alaska before. That was beautiful. Florida's fun. Like it all kind of depends. Like I like mountains, I like beaches, but yeah, I'd say wherever the Twins are playing, especially now, I'm not getting my baseball fix. So.
All right, Coach, we walk into the wrestling room and you set the music for the day. What's it going to be?
If I get my choice, I like country music. My guys don't like it too much. So I only get to pick music every now and then. I mean, obviously, like they like their rap. They like their classic rock. They like all kinds of stuff. But if I get my choice, if I'm doing an individual session or something, it's country music.
Okay. If you could be a superhero, who would it be?
I've always liked Spider-Man. But I feel like there's a lot more superheroes than there used to be, you know? Maybe I just didn't get into Marvel until they started making the movies, but like it seems like like Ant-Man, I never heard of Ant-Man until that movie came out, you know? So like right now it's Spider-Man.
I'm curious, what would yours be, Rob?
Probably the Hulk. Incredible
Nice.
Hulk. Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about them anger issues later. Let's close it up with your favorite quote, Coach.
So I have two. They're both really long, and I actually don't have them memorized, but I know the gist of them. Have you ever heard the "Man in the Arena" quote from Teddy Roosevelt?
I believe so.
I'm not sure.
I would look it up right now, but then you'd lose my visual. So basically, it comes down to talking about how like people always criticize people for not doing the right thing or whatever, but it all comes down to the guy who's actually in there doing it, you know? So anybody who's listening, look up "Man in the Arena" from Teddy Roosevelt. And then there's another one. My girlfriend actually got it put on a sign. So I'm probably going to butcher this one too, but I love it. It's the beginning of a new day. You've been given this day to use as you want. You can waste it or you can use it for good. Let it be something good.
Nice.
I love it.
Awesome.
It's a good one. Yeah. Well, Coach, thank you very much for joining us. We're super excited about you've got some awesome stuff coming and some good stuff you've already been doing. So keep up the great work. We look forward to following you. And thank you again for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you for tuning in. Please share this podcast with your friends. Give us a like and a follow on Facebook and Twitter at QCA Wrestle. And keep an eye out for more QCA wrestling content coming soon.